Welcome to Tetish University. In this new video, we will be interviewing an international student from ESCP. Welcome. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi Sophie, I'm Sakshi. I'm from India and I'm currently an M2 student at ESCP. I'm at the end of my degree of my master's in management, and over the past 2 years I've had an amazing experience living all over Europe, and it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So, what made you choose this field of study and this school?
So, back in India, when I was pursuing my undergraduate degree, I did a bachelor's in commerce and I specialized in finance. And after this degree, I realized that I want to gain more knowledge more holistically and in other fields as well. And I felt like management gave me that broad horizon that I needed to cultivate my skills further analytically and academically, but also on a more holistic level. And that is why I chose this particular degree. When it came to deciding which university suits me, I realized that ESCP has this unique opportunity that no university in the world has, which is them having multiple campuses all over Europe. And you get to choose and live in different cities and pursue different specializations and just different options. And it's a very customizable degree, which is what enticed me. And I'm so glad I made that decision.
So, how did you discover ESCP and the MIM program?
Back when I was looking to decide my next steps after my undergraduate degree, I spoke to a lot of my friends who were looking to move in the same direction as well, and also my friends who who were already pursuing like masters outside of India. And through different insights, I learned about ESCP from a mentor of mine. And I realized when I heard about ESCP from him, I was like, okay, this is something that's very different, and this is something that no other university offers. And I realized this could be something that I have a lot to gain from. I guess it just clicked when I heard about ESCP.
So, why did you choose to study in France over other countries?
Okay, this is actually a cute story. So, back in school, I studied French for a few years. And back then, I would say I didn't really do that well in the language because it's a pretty difficult language, right?
I agree.
But then when I was looking to move outside of India and move to Europe, I realized that back when I was studying the language, I enjoyed learning the language. I just enjoyed putting myself out there and learning a new language. So I was like, okay, maybe it's time to touch back there and pick up on the language again. I was like, okay, there's some sense of familiarity with the language because I'd learned it before. I think that's what drew me to France and to choose to study here.
So, what were your expectations before arriving to France, as it's academically or life?
I expected Paris to be as beautiful as it is. I guess the movies and the films do Paris justice in the way that it is. But I did expect to struggle with the language, even though I was trying to learn it and I had a touch of the language. I did expect it to be a bit of a struggle, and it did prove to be so. But at the same time, I think I expected Paris to be welcoming to someone like me from an international background who is not from here, and it proved to be right.
So, how did you apply to ESCP and the MIM program?
India has a program called Join a School in France, where it's like an application to multiple French universities. I think it's about 5 universities at once, and they look at your profile, and there's an application with multiple questions, and after which if you clear that, there's an interview as well. And this basically gives you an avenue to apply to multiple French universities at once. And I think that's what helped me get here.
So, what kind of specific documents you needed to submit?
For the application itself, I think I had to show my transcripts and my grades from when I was in school, from my undergrad as well. And I also had to give my GMAT scores and also an English proficiency exam. So I chose to give the IELTS. I think these were the main academic related documents that I had to provide for the application.
And how was the interview?
The interview was actually not my best work, I would say, because the interview was conducted with alumni from some of these universities. Since it's an application to multiple universities, there were two different panelists from different universities, and I was very prepared for the interview, but not prepared enough, I guess, in retrospect. But yeah, it was a very challenging interview, and they really dug deep, and they really wanted to understand why I would be a good fit for this, or why these universities would be a good fit for me. And after the interview, I thought that I did terribly and that I wasn't good enough at articulating myself, but maybe they thought different, and that's why I'm here.
So, how would you describe the MEM program overall?
The MEM program overall has been amazing. Over the course of 4 semesters, it gives you the opportunity to delve into different fields and choose specializations from different backgrounds, be it marketing, finance, international business, real estate, and so many more. Even though it's just a 2-year program, there's multiple possibilities of how you customize your degree, because you get to choose the specializations that you want to study, and at the same time it gives you the opportunity to move around and live in different cities and experience different lives in just a span of 3-4 months, which is 1 semester. I got to live in 3 different cities and meet people from all over the world. At the same time, I was challenged academically and I was able to learn a lot. So overall, through the 2 years, I think I've just grown as a person throughout.
What were the most important or interesting classes that you studied?
Since I studied finance in my undergrad as well, I was naturally drawn to it. I did tend to choose finance classes and I enjoyed those the most. The main purpose of the MEM for me was to expand my horizons, so I did take up classes in marketing and strategy as well, which were really interesting to me. And this one particular course called Project Management in Practice, it was one of the most practical classes I've had, and I had an amazing professor as well. That is what sealed the deal, I guess, for that class for me. I learned so much, and I feel like that really gave me the bridge that I needed to understand how I can apply my academic knowledge and the things that I've learned in school into a practical world in a corporate setting.
Could you give us a concrete example of a project or topic that you studied that really marked you?
So in this particular class that I mentioned, we had to basically design a 10-year plan for the brand L'Occitane, with the French brand, and it was a very hands-on assignment, and we were a group of 4 of us, and we really had to jump in deep into the brand, into the company, and understand what they stand for, to realize how they would move forward in this dynamic world where everything is changing, with technology growing so quickly and beauty standards changing, social media playing a role in all of this, and how this could play out in the next 10 years. I mean, nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. So it was a very interesting and challenging assignment to kind of understand how we could use these skills and what skills are needed in the real world to make things happen.
So, what does a typical academic week look like?
So for me, throughout the 2 years, I think each semester was different in its own way, even based on workload and the timings. But on the whole, I feel like the first year of my master's degree was a lot more rigorous, in the sense that I had more classes and I would have to be on campus 4 to 5 days a week, every week. And the days were longer. I think this is because in the first year we have a bunch of core courses to complete, which is mandatory for all the MIM students. I think that made the first year a lot more heavy, whereas the second year was a lot more lighter, and I would have classes only 3 to 4 days a week. And maybe because I chose specializations that I liked and subjects that I enjoyed studying, maybe that made it feel easier and lighter as well. But it was definitely the workload and the structure of the classes as well, because some classes were very theoretical, and in the sense that they were based on sitting in a classroom and gaining knowledge from the professor and from the content that they're trying to convey, whereas some classes were very practical and very hands-on.
In your opinion, what makes a difference into succeeding in your program?
I think in this program, the opportunity to do a lot of things, to do great work is always there. It's just about taking the initiative and putting your foot in the right direction and grabbing these opportunities. Because while these opportunities do exist, there's also thousands of students with you being offered the same opportunities, and it's just about who takes it up.
And so, how does the teaching style differs from India to France?
I would say in India, the teaching style is a lot more unilateral, wherein the professors tend to be the ones conveying a message, conveying knowledge, sharing their knowledge. Whereas here, I feel like the learning is a lot more holistic and it's based on conversations and discussions. It was a lot of fun for me, I guess. Of course, back in India, I was used to a certain way of like classes going in a certain way. But here, I think it took me some getting used to realize that, okay, yes, I get to talk now and I get to share my thoughts and realize and, learn through a conversation rather than just listening. That was fun. That was a very different way of learning. And I think it really helped understand what I was learning in a different perspective.
Did you needed a visa for coming to study in France?
Yes, I did need a visa to study here because my ESCP journey started in London. So I first, from India, I moved to London for 3 months. That was in September of 2023. And then after that, I moved to Paris from London. So I needed a different visa for London, and then I needed a different visa to get here.
And so, what are some key administrative steps that you needed to handle once you arrived in France?
I think once I got here, the first thing was getting a French phone number, which I think the administrative steps in France go very in an order. They go step by step. Once you get a number, you get a bank account, and then you get your social security, and then you do your CAF, and then there are a lot of steps, but then they happen one by one, but they do take time. I guess before arriving, things to do are getting the housing sorted and getting a guarantor to guarantee the landlord that you will be paying rent and you're able to do so. So I guess that's the first step before arriving to France. But after arriving to France, the most important thing would be to get a French phone number and open a bank account.
Any challenges?
I think most bureaucratic processes are a challenge in itself everywhere, all over the world. It takes time, so it's hard waiting for things to happen. But other than that, I would say the language was a problem sometimes. Understanding how these bureaucratic processes work, like if I have to post a letter, how do I do it? Where do I receive my mail? Where do I receive other things? This was a bit of a confusion in the beginning for me, at least. So the bureaucratic processes themselves being tedious and long is one thing, and the language posed to be a challenge.
Did you apply to any scholarship or did you receive any financial aid when you arrived?
So when I arrived, I applied for CAF and the social security, and those are the main benefits, I think, as a student living here, which helped me with my accommodation and my healthcare needs when I needed it.
So how did you manage a transition between India, London, and Paris and the other countries?
I think I just had to do it because I was in London for 3 months, 4 months at best. So I didn't really have time to get used to the city or anything. And with London, I think it was easier because English is widely spoken there and it was easy to get used to it. But then moving from London to Paris, I was like, okay, the language took a bit of time to get used to. And the city itself, it takes time to figure it out. But after that, I moved to Madrid for 3 months again. So that was another language, and I do not speak Spanish. So it took me some time to again pick up on like key phrases and kind of figure out how to get by every day. I think getting used to the city obviously naturally takes time, but once after I did it for the second time, after I moved to Paris and then I moved to Madrid, I think within a week I was okay. I was like, okay, I'm here now, I can manage. Like it takes a week to get used to, let's say, the weather, just the aura of the city, but after that it was mostly smooth sailing.
So, was the cultural lifestyle adaptation between India and France difficult, or how did you manage it?
It definitely took some time to get used to it. I think in India, in general, in the city, there's a lot of hustle and bustle. There's cars everywhere, there's a lot of noise, and there's cars honking, and there's people on the streets. Whereas here, it's a lot more quieter. So that's not a cultural aspect, but I guess that's just the vibe of the city aspect. So that took some time to get used to. Culturally, I think, I mean, of course, for me, India is home. So I was very comfortable with the language. I was very comfortable with the people who were around me, even like going to a store. And whereas coming here, it took me some time to understand how I'm expected to greet people, how I'm expected to speak to them, how do I politely ask for things that I need. That was mainly the cultural shift from India to here, and also the food. I would say Indian food it's something special. It's extremely flavorful and very strong. I mean, I love a good croque monsieur, but it can be a bit bland for me sometimes, I guess.
You talked about it a little bit, but could you explain how the language barrier shaped your experience here?
The language barrier gave me a lot of patience, or gave me the understanding that I need to develop a lot of patience, because languages do take time. And it was hard at first because I felt like the people I was speaking to, they couldn't understand what I wanted, what I was trying to say. And the same way, right? It's a frustration that goes both ways. It took a lot of patience to get used to that and to understand that I'm here from a different country, and it's my responsibility to learn the language, and it's my responsibility to be able to communicate to the people here.
Have you ever felt homesick?
I definitely have, but I've had my ways of getting through it. Paris does have good Indian food, I would say. That's been a big plus. But also, I've had a good Indian community, my group of friends at ESCP, a couple of us Indians who they become home after a while, right? Home away from home.
How did you adapt to your student life in France?
Student life in France, I guess there's a lot to do in the city, so it's easily distracting from student life. And I think it took a bit of keeping myself in check to understand that at the end of the day, I'm here to study, to, get my degree. And I think at ESCP, getting into student life was easy because there were a lot of events that were organized for students to mingle with each other and to get to know people, to go through this journey together. I also applied to be a student ambassador at ESCP, so that really gave me the opportunity to meet a lot more people and to also understand what student life at ESCP is about.
Was it easy or challenging to socialize with French people or with other internationals?
It's been fun socializing with everyone, but I think with French people, I wouldn't want to generalize, but at times it was a bit tricky. I feel like the sense of humor is a bit different with French people, and that took some time to get used to. But overall, I think I've had a great time socializing with people from all over the world and just getting to know different cultures from different people. I think that's been the best part for me.
So, what are the next steps? What are your plans after graduation?
So right now, after graduating, I'm currently looking for an internship in finance. So for the next, let's say, a year, I'll be interning and learning.
And do you see yourself staying in France, going to another country, or maybe going back home to India?
Well, for the next few years, I think I see myself being here in France. I want to stay here. I think Paris has a hold on me. Maybe down the line, plans might change. But for now, at least for the next, let's say, 5 to 7 years, I see myself being here.
So, how has studying in France, and more specifically at ESCP, shaped your personal and professional goals?
Studying at ESCP really gave me the challenge to grow as a person and to realize where my skills lie, where my strengths lie, and how I'm supposed to hone them for me to be a better person, or for me to be able to better apply my skills in the real world. So from an academic and career standpoint, ESCP really shaped my skills that way, but also from a more holistic and personal view, I met people from all over the world and it just gave me so many new perspectives. It's always, I guess, challenging to understand new perspectives, but that was the most enriched learning I was able to get.
One thing you wish you knew before moving to France.
I wish I had worked on my French better. I think that would have made a difference in how smooth the transition to living in France would have been.
So, if you could change or improve anything in your overall journey, what would it be?
Like I said, I think there were a lot of opportunities for me to do a lot of things at ESCP, and at the time, I felt like I took up the opportunities that I had to, but maybe retrospectively, I feel like I could have done more. But other than that, I think I've learned quite a bit from being here.
And lastly, what advice would you give to a student that is dreaming to study France and at ESCP?
I would say have an open mind to the challenges that are in front of you and be ready to challenge yourself to grow and just grab the opportunities that come your way.
Thank you very much for your patience, your thoughts, and your journey that you shared with us. And see you soon on Totis University.